What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. This is our first Friday of August, and I am kicking it off hot, bringing the heat with John Kraski, LinkedIn top voice, Web3 expert, all of the things. I have been fanning on John Kraski, truly, like he is somebody I just got connected with through Grace Gong. And I really appreciate your LinkedIn content because it's real, authentic. You kind of know what you're talking about, which is huge in this space, right? Because we need people that are real voices, real background from real companies. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you are listening in, please say hello to us. Let us know where you are listening from and get those questions ready from John. And I do want to give a special shout out to any of our family, our standout authority coin holders, and people that are listening in. What's up? What's up? I love you. All right, John. First things
Wow.
first. I know, right? And look,
Wow.
Sid.
I thought I brought the heat with my LinkedIn audios and my podcast, but I think you're even bringing them more. So, wow. Kudos to you.
Okay, well, that's what we do here. That's what the B Lee is all about. Sid is one of our family members and one of our high coin holders. So thanks, Sid, for being here. John, first
Yes.
things first, you've had a really cool career journey.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to just talk, and you just did a great post about it too, a little bit of just your journey into getting into Web3 and where you are now as a director of partnerships at LandVault.
Yeah. The journey. So I started my career in the world of public accounting and finance. I worked for KPMG, Price Waterhouse. I worked at the time it was Washington Mutual. Now it's, I guess, JP Morgan. Um, Never enjoyed any of that. I don't actually. That's another story how I even got into accounting and finance, but I should have never even been doing that in the first place. So I did that for 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even remember, maybe even longer than that. But I knew I needed to get out. So I went and got my MBA at the University of Southern California in their business entertainment program. I thought that would be sort of the pivot that would get me out of accounting and finance. And unfortunately, it didn't work out the way I hoped. I did an internship at Disney, but again, they had me doing accounting and finance because that's what I did before. I worked for a Spanish communications company. Again, they had me doing accounting and finance. I worked for a well-known TV producer, Aaron Kaplan. Again, he was having me doing accounting and finance because that's what my resume before was. It was very unsuccessful in pivoting out of what I was trying to get out of with this MBA. So I spent $150,000, incurred a lot of debt, a lot of frustration, and then I took this crazy detour. I was really hoping to work for Aaron Kaplan, and it just didn't work out for a variety of reasons. And I took this wild detour and I became an executive in the luxury interior design space for almost a decade. I worked for Michael Smith, who did, during that time when I was there, we worked on the White House for the Obama, Cindy Crawford, George Clooney, Harrison Ford. It was cool. I mean, people thought it was sounding cool, but again, I was doing accounting, finance, operations, general management, all the stuff. I just hated it. I was just so frustrated. So I literally spent 20 years of my life frustrated in just kind of trapped in this whole accounting, finance, general management resume. So I worked for a startup for maybe a year and a half. It was backed by Benchmark Capital, but again, it was like in the luxury interior design space. They were trying to do kind of like the Uber model for interior design. Didn't work out. But then the pandemic happened, and I said, okay, this is my opportunity to try and get this corrected. The world has slowed down. We were all kind of in the same place. We really couldn't do much. So I started first with my body. I got a trainer, lost 40 pounds. I put a few pounds back on during my last year and a half of Web3, but I'm working on that now because I'm back with my same trainer. So that's where I started. I started with my body, and then that kind of like affected the other parts of my life, my mind, and then my career. So I just kind of put that energy out in the universe. So I went onto LinkedIn, obviously, applied to a bunch of different places. Again, was kind of coming up empty, but then somehow I got this opportunity to interview for this Mark Cuban company called NFT Genius. I didn't even know what an NFT was, didn't even know anything about blockchain, didn't know anything about crypto, didn't know anything about Web3, but I seemed to really click with the COO and the CEO. It was just 2 1/2-hour conversations. It was like the easiest interview process ever. And I actually didn't get the job I interviewed for, but they liked me so much, they said, we're going to hire you anyways. So then that started my journey in NFT Genius, where I first was like a special projects manager, super ambiguous, just doing a bunch of different stuff. Then they had me as a product manager, which made no sense. I don't know anything about product management. Then I did some operations, finance. I then kind of started doing business development and started hosting these events in the Web3 space. And that's kind of where I found my lane. I was kind of doing the jobs that they wanted me to do. And then on the side, I was doing this business development, event planning. And it kind of allowed me just to create my own dream job. So that's kind of what I've done. So I've taken, and then I started posting on LinkedIn as well, obviously. So those were the things I started doing. And I started my podcast. So I kind of like did all these other things kind of on the side, the LinkedIn, the podcast, the hosting events, started doing like, business development stuff. And they started to see that I was gaining traction not only on LinkedIn, but with the events and obviously bringing the different partnership opportunities. We had like Shaquille O'Neal's team like reached out. That was like one of the first ones. We were talking to big auto manufacturers. So I started to bring in really like big quality brands and IP. So they're like, okay, like whatever this guy's doing is working. It's not really what we hired him for, but it's actually, we need it. So yeah, that's what I did. I've just sort of created my dream job. I was like, okay, I'm going to align my superpowers with my career. And yeah, that's why Web3 is cool, because it's still so nascent and new. And there's a lot of opportunities to sort of create your own lane and find your own lane. It's a lot easier as opposed to trying to go into a more established Web2 company or, like an Amazon or a Google or Facebook. They're just not going to allow you like to do what I did. It's just not possible. Web3 though, super undefined lines in a lot of respects, and a lot of lanes. So if you're passionate, you're motivated, you actually do have some tangible skills to bring to the table. It's a massive equalizer for people that are really looking to reinvent and reimagine their life. So that's my Web3 story.
Yeah, and I think there's so many interesting things that you pointed out, right? Which is that you had this background in accounting and finance, right? You knew that this wasn't really what you wanted to do, and you started to stretch yourself. You started the podcast. You started to build your personal brand, John, which is what we talk about so much at Stand Out with our community. Is one, you get to own your voice. You get to create the career you love, but you need to do it. Like, you get to create that. And so you started to activate your voice on LinkedIn. You started to host parties, and you just started to test new waters. And I just love that example, because people really need to hear that. And I love knowing, right, for so many people here, we're primarily on LinkedIn, although streaming on a few places, where people just feel really stuck and they don't really know, like, the idea of this session with you is like, what the fuck is Web3? Like, they don't really kind of get it. It's like, what? NFT who? Like, I talked to my, and it's like the verbiage is so complex. And but I think what you're showing is there's actually like all of the skills that we have today are perfectly applied to just a new kind of realm, right? Can you talk a little bit about, and I just want to say what's up. I see Bashir Angad here. Thank you. Divyang, if I'm hopefully saying those names semi-okay. Really appreciate you guys being here. I like to shout out to any person that's listening that I can see their name. But talk a little bit about what you're doing in this space in Web3. So, like, can you bring this down to the accounting, finance sort of boringness, maybe, of what you are creating in Web3, what LandVault is doing?
Yeah, and LandVault, we're the world's largest metaverse builder. We have 120 builders, designers, architects. We've done around 200 metaverse builds, which is 12% of the open metaverse so far. So we've built over 10% of what's currently been built in the metaverse. Our predecessor company, Admix, was one of the largest in-video game advertising companies. So we basically pivoted. We've been around for, I guess, 4 or 5 years, the company, but we pivoted. We made a conscious decision to pivot into Web3 in 2021, and then that really came to full fruition when we made the acquisition of LandVault a couple months ago. But yeah, we are really focused. So we took that tech stack from Admix, the in-video game advertising company, and we've now pivoted it to Web3. So we're building out a full metaverse tech stack as part of this pivot. But right now we're helping brands. We own a lot of land in different metaverses. We have a lot of expertise. We're helping the biggest and best brands enter Web3 through the metaverse. We believe that the metaverse is the perfect entry point as opposed to NFTs. We think that just the metaverse makes a lot more sense because it's tangible. It's it basically is replicates what we know in the real world. You know, you buy a piece of land, you build a house or build a office building, whatever. It's basically the same thing in the metaverse. So we're helping brands come into Web3 through the metaverse, and we look at it as building a business together. We're not trying to just sell them an activation, and it's a true partnership. So we, you know, that's what we're doing. We just recently did something for MasterCard for Pride Month. I think it was recognized by Ad Age as the best metaverse build in Decentraland of the year. We working with a massive global, I guess, retailer. You can probably guess it. There's only a few of those that exist. Then we've done like World of Women, more like Web3 OG type projects. So we're engaging. We're talking to a lot of studios right now in Hollywood. They're super interested in space. There's just a lot of interesting conversations going on. We're developing partnerships with a wide variety of firms to just kind of refer their clients who are looking to get in the metaverse. We really believe that there's no firm out there that's better positioned than myself. And our CEO, Sam Huber, is one of the smartest people in the world. He was a former Formula One engineer. So he's just like wicked smart. He's got a 5-year roadmap. He understands exactly where it's taking our company. I think it's so important because this is my 3rd startup, and I've worked for 2 other startups, and they both failed because of the founder. And honestly, it's crazy. One was backed by Benchmark Capital for $25 million. My predecessor company before LandVault was, backed by Mark Cuban, Ashton, Kutcher. Again, it's like not having a strong CEO and executive team is it's a killer with startups. It doesn't matter who the investors are, how much money you have. So yeah, we're I have Charles Atkins, who's my colleague. I've been very close with him. I think we're just positioned for success. We have a really strong team in place, and we're just ready to help brands and IPs get into the metaverse, and I'm just having the time of my life. So it's LandVault, where if you're looking to get in the metaverse, we're the people to talk to. And in a metaverse build, people always ask, it can be as little as 20,000. It can go up to like $1 million plus. It just depends, but we can parse it out. We can rent you the land. You don't even have to buy it, even if you as a firm can't hold crypto. We can do it in milestones, so you don't have like a massive like upfront cost. We can kind of parse it out, and we can kind of iterate and test things. So we'd like to do that as well with brands, so they can just kind of slowly learn and not deploy a ton of capital.
About that a little bit, because I feel like I come from the big corporate marketing brand side, and there's a lot of hesitation, right? Especially, everybody keeps talking about the recession, the bear market, all these sort of things, right? There's a lot of hesitance by some brands. Others are more forward thinking. But can you talk a little bit about kind of what you're seeing, what the conversations that are happening when it comes to the bigger companies, and then how they're approaching Web3, whatever way that might be, NFTs, Metaverse, whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, some brands are really making an effort. They're hiring chief metaverse officers. CAA just announced their first chief metaverse officer. Volkswagen, they have kind of a head of Web3, and so certain brands are really making an effort, and they have that point person to really funnel through all those conversations. Other brands are fumbling around. They have people that have, it's almost like ad hoc type leadership. They're just like, oh, I'm interested in Web3, and they're kind of the de facto person. But there's usually these big companies have a bunch of those people running around, and they can't get consensus on anything. The one thing I advise brands, though, is you have to look at this as a marketing expense. This is a marketing expense right now. There's just too much. It's like R&D or marketing expense. I mean, it's very experimental. So you need to come in and just kind of learn, and then take those learnings, and then you can start to project ROI and revenue. I mean, I know a lot of these brands have their CFOs asking to project revenues. I mean, it's not possible right now. There's just not enough data points. So you have to treat it like marketing, R&D, and then I think if you do that, you're going to be good position, but you have to get in there now. Honestly, things are gonna. If you wait another year as a brand, you're gonna be way behind the eight ball. And other brands have already, because there's certain brands that are making big pushes, like Nike with their acquisition of Artifact. I mean, they're deep into it. I mean, they're gonna be so far ahead of everybody. Not only just in the consumer apparel space, but I mean, just in big brands in general. I mean, Starbucks is making their push. I mean, there's certain brands that are just fully committed to the process. Other brands, I mean, it's wild. It's wild how and again, I think it comes down to education. So that's the issue. The executive teams really need to be educated. So that's what we're trying to do with our Good Morning Web3 live brand, is really start to create events where we're educating and on-ramping Web2 brands and a Web3. So we're going to host a conference in Dubai, October 20th, 21st, and half the attendees are going to be Web2 brands. The other half will be Web3 brands, and all the programming will be Web3 protocols, educating Web2 brands and how to get into the space. And that's it. Awesome. And the conference is going to be free. It's not a cash grab. That's a whole other conversation. That's another LinkedIn Live about these conferences that are just full on cash grabs. I mean, there was a conference here in LA. Literally, I went at one point and the cheapest ticket was $6,000. I'm like, this is like more expensive than Super Bowl. This is a stupid NFT conference, like literally stacked with panels of people, most of who are not even qualified to talk about NFTs and Web3. So yeah, that's what we're really focused on, is education. I think that's what brands need right now: education, easy on ramps. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
And not just brands, I mean, everybody, right?
Everybody.
Because it's the people at the brands, right? It's the me, it's the you, it's the people working at these companies, individuals that they are ultimately making the decision. And so that's why, I really appreciate all the stuff that you do with your podcast and the content, because it is really helpful to get educated. And I think for people listening, somebody was kind of asking about, kind of getting started, and they appreciated that you, wondering if it's accessible for smaller creators and if they'll be priced out by the time there's wider adoption. You're kind of saying still time, plenty of time.
I mean, like MoonPay has a company underneath them, Hypermint. It's part of the MoonPay brand, but I mean, it's a white label solution to create NFTs. It's going to basically allow everybody to just sort of, it's basically almost the equivalent of just going to GoDaddy and being able to like buy a domain and like build your own website. But that's basically what Hypermint's going to do for NFTs. It's going to make it super creator, consumer friendly. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that need to start happening. There's a lot of awesome stuff happening. You just don't hear about it because it's really boring to build, and can't really hire a DJ to like hype up somebody who's building an awesome product. So, but that's what's going to start to happen over the next 6 to 12 months, may even happen quicker. I know that this tech cycle is going to accelerate quicker than the other two. I don't know at what pace, but I just know there's amazing, frictionless, consumer-friendly solutions happening, and it's only a matter of time before you're going to be interacting with the whole Web3 world on your phone. So
I want to talk a little bit about, that's 100%. I want to talk about you were at NFT Genius, and there's like a lot of NFT conversation happening of just, right, like consolidation. It's been a little bit of splashiness, and it's time for real projects to come to the forefront. A lot of them are shutting down. Can you talk a little bit about good NFTs? Is it a good time, for people that are like, I just want to start dabbling in this as a way in, what would you say to those people? What an NFT is, how to start dabbling, and what's going on right now?
I mean, NFT is, the NFT is simple. It's just like it's a digital asset where you can verify your ownership on the blockchain. I mean, that's the simplest form, of what an NFT is. But in terms of what a good NFT project is, I mean, most of them are pretty terrible, to be honest. And most of them are just cartoons that have these like fake roadmaps, fake utility. I guess, like Gary Vee has a pretty solid one. I think these membership models, I think, are going to be super interesting. So I think he's onto something. I think like what he's done is going to be replicatable by brands that are starting to get in space. I don't really invest in a ton of NFT projects because most of the brands, like I love Soho House, I love like Suit Supply, like all the brands I love, once they start to offer NFTs, then I'm all in because I feel like NFTs are going to be a way to level up the customer experience. create more stickiness between the consumer and the brand. So, I mean, like Soho House, for instance, they should definitely have NFTs. I mean, they're just leaving money on the table. I would spend another $5,000 to $10,000 a year if they could like level up my experience as a member, and they could do that through NFTs. I think any brand, Suit Supply, I love Suit Supply, they could do that as well, like offering like access to unique experiences or goods or whatever it is. And the high-end fashion brands are doing that. So I think like the Gucci products, I mean, they're definitely onto something with what they're doing, and I think brands could do something similar. So that's the exciting part. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just like the projects out there right now, I mean, it was a lot of pumping and dumping, speculative gambling. I mean, there's a lot of words you can use, scamming, cash grabbing. I don't know, just none of it was good. So yeah, like I said, like what Nike is doing with Artifact, Gary Vee. I mean, there's a few. I don't know. I don't know a ton about what Bored Ape really is offering. I mean, it's probably pretty. They're probably going to do something only because they just have so much money to figure it out. But yeah, for the most part, I think most of those projects will be just non-existent unless there's some magic thing that happens that gives them a utility. But they promised a lot of things that are never going to happen. Play during games, TV shows, movies, like just crazy. They're like these crazy roadmaps. It was just the wildest thing. I was like, wait, like what is a roadmap? It's you're basically promising a bunch of stuff that's not even attached to what you're buying. Just like, wow, that's smoke and mirrors. It's crazy. And people are like now upset, like, oh wow, I was like, you bought this thing that's totally bad art. It's basically cartoons with fake promises of future goods and services that are never happening. So
well, I think something you're speaking into and something I've learned from others is just doing your research, right? And to look into projects. I guess, John, how do you do that, right? When you're investigating and working with people, how do you know the legitimacy of people in the space? Because there's a lot of people, bad actors, right? So
yeah,
like getting hacked. Like now we're on Solana, Phantom. It's like, dang, and that will continue to happen. So what's your advice there?
I mean, I like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good place to start. I feel like the integrity, the morals, the ethics of the people there are at a higher caliber than maybe other social media platforms. So I feel like that's a good place to start. I think just creating a good circle of people around you. I think that's my most valuable asset at this point in the space, is just being around good quality people. So, I mean, even the last 3 months, my circle is tightened in terms of just people I lean on. So that's why I stayed close to Charles Atkins. He gets it. He's trying to he's in the space for the right reasons. It's pretty easy on LinkedIn to figure out who the hacks are and who the true builders are. So there's the Diego Borgia. I mean, he's another person that I like. I love his content on LinkedIn. There's like Susana Esteban. There's Sandra H. I mean, there's you gotta find a good circle of content creators. I think on LinkedIn, for me, that's what I do. There's 5 to 10 people kind of interact with their content, and then you'll just kind of start to see the other people that are commenting, and you can reach out to them. It's very easy to reach out to people on LinkedIn and set up calls, and that's the way to do it. I think is just kind of find a really close circle of trust there and talk to those people, and you can quickly then vet things out and get to decisions quicker. But yeah, that's my advice. Just have good people around you, and those people usually will give you good advice on what you should do.
Which I think is really interesting because when I was at Consensus and going into some sessions and whatnot, some people didn't even have LinkedIn profiles. And in fact, I even found one person that was like, don't follow me here, be on Twitter. And I find Twitter to be challenging in terms of there's no validation of credibility. So
Yep.
I think it's just, I appreciate that you're saying LinkedIn, because Josh and I believe the same thing. Still, this is our professional experience. Everything is validated somewhat on LinkedIn more than Twitter, but everybody's all over Twitter,
Yeah, I mean, but that's where all the scammers and cash grabbers persisted. So I'm pumping up. So I mean, there are obviously there's very legit people there. We kind of. I mean, I have a Twitter account, but I literally just my LinkedIn posts just go get posted there. I have zero engagement. So actually, I think if I do expand outside another social media platform, I think it will not be Twitter for me personally. I actually. As strange as it sounds, I mean, I feel like TikTok could be interesting for me, which is wild, but only because I want to show a different side of my personality And I think Twitter's too similar to LinkedIn for me to really show that. So I want to stretch myself a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Twitter, it's a lot of noise. You have to, that's the thing. It's almost too much information. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to filter it and find the, those people that are actually throwing out legitimate information. But yeah, I don't know. I'm LinkedIn, so and we're on LinkedIn Live, so I'm just going to advocate for LinkedIn because that's just, that's where my tribe is.
Totally. I'm with you. Here's a good question. And then I want to bring the heat to you. One of the practices is there are anonymous creators of projects, which makes research challenging. If there are some anonymous, I feel like that's a bad sign.
Yeah, that's a bad sign. That's probably a bad sign. Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, that's a bad sign.
Good.
It can't be good. I mean, it's almost like if a company went public, you have to disclose all the officers and the team and all that. So I don't know. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. I mean, it's only a matter of time before the SEC, at least in the U.S. and other regulatory bodies across the world, start to dig their heels in here and kind of tighten this up a little bit, because that's the way we're heading. And the reality is, Web3, this whole decentralized world, I think there are going to be aspects that are going to benefit creators and hopefully levelize the playing field a little more. I think that's definitely happening. But at the end of the day, big money always wins. And, the Amazons, the Facebooks, the BlackRocks, or whoever, they'll be well entrenched in here, and they're going to have probably full control of Web3. But I think it'll be better. But I think it'll be
fully decentralized. Let's be honest.
Now everybody's building on their own private blockchain. So everybody. I think that's not if, it's when. So
yeah. Okay, so if y'all listening don't know, John Kraski has a fun podcast called the NFT Heat podcast, and it's really good, 30-minute sort of short segments. And what they do is they start out with bringing the heat to their guests, 5 questions. And so I thought we would bring the heat to John, and he let me know that he actually hasn't had this happen. So I said, props to Rachel for doing this.
Yeah, props to you. Props to you. I've actually feared this day. Because I'm like, we're asking these questions our guests. I'm like, I don't even know if I can answer these questions right now. So yeah. All right. No pressure. No pressure.
But what is your favorite Discord?
I hate Discord. So, but I mean, I'm on Discord for LandVault. Surprisingly, that's our main communication channel. It's okay, but I'm pretty ambivalent towards it. But yeah, I don't like Discords. But the only one I even interact with is my work one. So I guess the LandVault Discord, I guess, is my favorite one.
Okay, and obviously standout authorities. I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Obviously. I'm adding that right. I'm adding that right after we finish this LinkedIn audio. So, or LinkedIn Live. Sorry. Yeah. Absolutely. So.
Okay.
Can't wait.
The next question is, why should people care about NFTs?
I mean, it's the future. I don't think they're going to be called NFTs in a few years, but I think I think they should care about NFTs because it's interconnected to Web3. So I think it's kind of an entry point into the Web3 world. So you should understand it. Just spend a little time, whether that's listening to your LinkedIn Lives or my podcast, or setting daily Google alerts for NFTs, Web3, Metaverse. Just start to learn a little bit. That's my advice. Like, spend a little time, learn, figure out how that affects what you're doing, either in your daily life or in your business. Trust me, it's the same feeling I had because I grew up in Seattle of when Amazon and Microsoft started. I was just too young and naive to understand a pivotal technology shift was happening, and it was massive opportunity. But I'm just going to say, you should care about NFTs if you care about opportunity and transforming your personal and professional life.
Yeah, and it's not just like pictures of art. Like, that is
no.
Of this thing that it's like, oh, it's the Bored Ape. It's like, no, NFTs are literally going to are already starting to disrupt major industries like real estate. Think about titles. Think about the ways in which you get into a restaurant, like what Gary, just simple things like that. How do I get into a restaurant? I book right now on Open Table. Well, you might be only able to get into a restaurant because of the NFT that you own, right? That relationship. There's just so many different applications depending on the industry. And so if you're in an industry that potentially is using a lot of documentation,
Yep.
could get disrupted. Okay, cool.
All right.
So then I guess, is it too late to invest in NFTs?
I don't like. Yeah, we should change that question. Invest in
You're
NFTs.
like, wait.
That question's terrible. Actually, that we're asking our guests. Yeah, that question shouldn't be asked anymore. I would say it's not too late to get into NFTs as a brand, or as an individual who's looking to start a business. I'll leave it like that. In terms of just buying cartoons, though, yeah, that definitely it's too late because it was a scam in the first place. But yeah, in terms of learning about the technology and applying that to your brand or a business, no, that's like it's a good time. It's a great time.
Yeah, and community. Like, if there are some great communities, you love what they're doing, what they're standing for, what the proceeds are going to.
Yeah.
I follow like the Women of the World. I follow Crypto Chicks. I love the female-centered pieces of NFT and how some of the money will get donated to different organizations. It will help fund artists. Like, just kind of looking into that stuff, that there's greater depth in what they're doing. Back to, I think, what you were talking about with the utility piece of it, the roadmap.
Yeah. I mean, we're having conversations with the Boss Beauties team. They're amazing. World of Women, we've obviously done stuff for. There's a couple other organizations, Mission Impact, a couple great founders that I met in Amsterdam at one of our events who do some really great stuff, trying to on-ramp more women into the space. There's Paulette Watson, who's she toggles between the UK and Africa, but she's really focused on getting young women into the Web3 space. So yeah, I mean, there's another guy. He's actually in Austin. Oh my God, I forget his name. Nick James, I believe it is. Do you know Nick?
I don't know.
Do you guys know?
I'll have to look
Yeah,
him
he's
up.
got like the Texas. Yeah, he's based. I mean, he's in Dallas, but he's close to Austin. But yeah, some Texas. I don't know. I don't know what the exact name of his organization is, but he's again focused on educating and on ramping young and diverse people into the space. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting people trying to do the right things. Those are the things that excite me. So I think those are the kind of projects, initiatives that I love to support. So
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
You know, I like all these questions from your podcast, but what's your favorite NFT project? But maybe we don't say NFT. Like, what's your favorite Web3 project?
Favorite Web3 project. I mean, the Gary V projects is great. The V Friends, I like that. I think, like I said earlier, just applying that same kind of utility to brands out there and giving them a different level of access is really a cool template for other brands. I mean, they just got 50 million from A16Z and Series A. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that must put that valuation at over $1 billion. So well done. I mean, that's a good model. That's a good model. A16Z is going to give you 50 million in. Is it seed funding or Series A? I don't even know what that was, but it was a seed. Seed funding.
I don't know. But I think what's interesting, I think, as you're talking about this, as people are listening, is that people that do have established brands, business brands, personal brands, that there is an even more unique opportunity, as you're saying, use this as a marketing expense, R&D, as a new way of reaching your audience versus thinking of it necessarily as an entirely new business model.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the reality is almost every brand has a massive Web3 play. They just don't even know it sometimes.
Right.
And that's where education comes in. I'm telling you, they're all sitting on massive opportunities. You already have the consumers. You already have the product pipeline. You just need to now just pivot that into Web3 and level it up. I mean, I really think Web3 is the way to level up what you're already doing as a brand in Web2. That's the way to think about it. So why are you waiting? It's stupid. So the only thing the only reason why companies are the people in those companies that are getting stopped in their tracks is because their executive teams are not educated. So you have to get them, and hopefully we can do it through some of the events we're doing, what you're doing, who all of us that are just trying to get everybody up to speed as quickly as possible. I mean, that's we can all do our part to get them educated and start to entrench themselves more in the space. So
yeah, cool. Well, I think that's a perfect kind of way for us to end. I saw Joshua Hale is here. What's up? Patty Toms. A few more, kind of questions came in. Hey, John Barker. So glad that you're here. But we'll go in and answer any other questions that come in. But this will conclude our LinkedIn Live, Twitter Live, Facebook Live, wherever you're at. John, thank you so much for joining us. As he mentioned, LinkedIn, follow him.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to Grace. I didn't even know that's how we got connected. So I'm going to see Grace and Anthony, and probably in about an hour from now. So for this weekend Web3 Live. But you should come on the our LinkedIn audio one of these days. You're great. You have good energy, and you should come on the NFT Heat podcast whenever. So if you ever want to come on,
I'm gonna have to prep for my.
Yeah, no, it's easy. They're easy. They're easy. We're on Alter TV now, and apparently we're getting 150,000 views an episode, which is kind of crazy. We have zero. We have never even done marketing for that thing yet. So we're gonna be. We have a couple exciting partnerships we're gonna be announcing. We're gonna try to level that up. But yeah, you should come on that as well. But and I would love to come on this anytime again. So it's fun. I didn't even know what I actually had signed up for, but this is great. This is fun for me. I've been on a lot of podcasts and different things, but this is definitely in the top 10% of things I've been on. So
woohoo! Hear that? You guys heard top 10%. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because it's about personal branding. I brought
personal branding. You bring the heat.
I bring the heat.
You bring the heat. So yeah. This is fun. This is fun. This is great. This is a great way to end the week, start my Friday here in LA. It's great. So I'm gonna have an amazing day now that I've started here with you. So,
well, thanks everyone so much. Please follow John. Be back in a few weeks, back on LinkedIn Live. Thank you so much for joining. Please join our community, standoutauthority.com/community. All this content will be part of that as well. Talk to you soon.